Annie, bonsoir, good evening, and welcome to our February 1st meeting of council. As we normally do, the first meeting of the month is chaired by the Deputy Mayor. So I'll turn it over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Peugeot. I'll start with the Indigenous land acknowledgement. I would like to begin the meeting by acknowledging that we are in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Robinson-Huron Treaty area and wish to recognize the neighboring communities of Dookies First Nation. While we meet today, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. So we will start with the adoption of the agenda, and we have an addition to be made at 6.1.2. We're going to discuss the OPP. So I need a mover and a seconder to adopt the resolution as amended. Dave and Dean. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Any delegations? None. Okay, we will start off the meeting with Andrea, our bylaw officer, if that's okay, because she has another meeting to attend to. So 6.6.1 is a resolution to adopt a bylaw to establish a site plan control area within the limits of the municipality of French River. And it's continued discussion from meeting of January 18th, bylaw 2023-08 site plan control bylaw. Hi, Andrea, you're good.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. This is a bylaw we presented to council at last meeting. This is an opportunity to ask any questions, and I'm here to answer anything that might have come up in your review. So I open it up to council.
Does anybody have any questions for Andrea? Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Andrea, I've read through this thing, and the impression that I get mostly is more regulation. And I just kind of was thinking to myself, do we need more regulation? And in particular, maybe you can help me with this. What does this give us that we don't have now? What's going to empower us here with more regulation?
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. The regulation is going to allow us to make sure that development happens in a way that is approved through the proper channels. So we do have a lot of investment happening in the area. Lodges are being purchased and renovated. Businesses are being purchased and money's being invested. It's basically giving us the ability to ask for a detailed review to make sure that things like parking, light emission signs, that all of these things are taken into account so that there's an agreement between the person investing and developing and with the municipality.
Between council and the planning board, can we not do all of that sort of thing now? Don't we have the authority?
We can in some instances. It is in the zoning bylaw for specifically for new tourist development on waterfront commercial tourist properties. We can ask for it, but we can't ask for it where it's come into issue is this kind of tourism development on rural properties. I don't have the ability to really ask for site plan control on those properties, and I've been challenged in other municipalities where I wanted a more detailed review. I was challenged and said, you can't really have it. You don't have that within your power to ask for it. So this is also, it's also sort of tying up a loose end. This is something that was proposed to councils back in 2012 and was supposed to be presented then, because this is a piece of legislation that needs to be in place so that we have this power to ask for this type of review. So to me, I see it as tying up a loose end that was really asked for 10 years ago. And I see it as a tool that would be used in the proper situation to make sure that proper reviews are in place and proper agreements are in place.
As I was reading it, my impression is that it doesn't have much of anything to do with residential building and that kind of thing. It must be mostly to react to commercial development of one kind or another, or business development.
That's correct, Councillor Dean. And also it's even become a bit looser because of the building, what's it called, that legislation, building more homes faster or building better faster, that the province has put up, More Homes Built Faster Act. This is the one. So they've actually loosened it so that developments of up to 10 dwellings wouldn't have to go through site plan control. Where when we were first reviewing this, it was anything, I believe, over 3.
And in your opinion, Andrea, you don't think that this is going to be a hindrance to people who are thinking of spending money on development, on business development or tourism development, either one?
In my opinion, no. I think that this is a tool that needs to be in place, and it actually, in my opinion, helps developers. It's almost like asking for a business plan before they go ahead with all of the dreams and all of the things that they want to do. There's a good detailed conversation about the expectations for the little things like parking, drainage, the minutia that maybe gets lost in the dream. It's something that I've asked for in other situations, especially when we had a lot of conversation about cannabis production facilities. I always brought up right away, I believe we should go through a site plan control negotiation or situation so that everything gets addressed, so nothing gets missed in the planning of the development.
Last question.
Whether I was on solid legal ground to ask for it or not, it was never challenged at the time, and none of the developments went through. But that's another place where I can see this being helpful.
The other 3 municipalities in Sudbury East, are they all planning on having this same legislation?
It's being proposed to all 3. St. Charles, I'm proposing it tonight. They've all gone through the same steps as French River, where I've asked if, like I've presented and asked if this was a legislation they were interested in me presenting. So now they're getting this presentation of the bylaw tonight in St. Charles and next week in Killarney.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Andrea? Okay, seeing none, we need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Will and Councillor Dave.
It is duly moved and seconded, be it resolved that bylaw 2023-08, being a bylaw to establish a site plan control area within the limits of the municipality of French River, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All in favor? Okay, thank you, Andrea.
Thanks.
I believe, are you doing the second one also? No, that's it.
No.
Okay, have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, we'll continue on with 6.1.1, a resolution to appoint one council member to the Board of Health, Public Health and Service in District. French River requested to continue to represent Sudbury East as a public health board from 2022 to 2026. We need a mover and a seconder before we can speak. Councillor Dave and Councillor Roger. Mayor Pajot will speak to this.
So just to give you a little background, the last 4 years, French River has held the position of representing SEMA, so the Sudbury East Municipal Association on public health. And over those 4 years, we've had major problems with public health with the increases in their levy. Our rep at that time was Randy Hazlett, and he managed to bring forth a lot of our concerns and the concerns of the other four municipalities. And because French River spearheaded that phase, I felt that with Mark Stave Warren, I had a chat with Mayor Ned, I should say, to see if we could retain the position, because we need to keep public health accountable. And I know that Mark Stave Warren right now has a whole bunch of new counselors. Renee's been on SEMA, and is quite aware of what's going on at public health, and will keep Penny Sutcliffe on her toes by questioning every spending, instead of having somebody totally new who isn't familiar with the portfolio. So it'll be good for all members of Summit to have somebody with Renee's background to represent us on public health. And their council agreed and passed a motion to turn over their representation back to us. Normally we switch around when there's a new council that comes in. All the representation on boards change. And so it was Mark Stave Warren's turn to do it, but to assist them and to assist SEMA, we've offered to keep it for the next 4 years, and Renee agreed to do that. So with that, we just need to vote on it.
Okay, I believe.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that council appoints the following member of council to the Public Health Sudbury and District Board of Health for the 2022-2026 term of council. So Councillor Renee Cuddy.
All in favor? Thank you. So we will continue on to 6.1.2, discussions about the OPP satellite office. I believe Mayor Pajot will speak to this. And if anybody has any questions afterwards, we can discuss it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've prepared a little brief to bring everybody to speed as to what's happening. And let me go through my comments, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So late last week, I received a number of calls from residents informing me that our OPP satellite station would be officially closed effective June 30th of this year. Needless to say, I was pretty surprised and realized that June 30th is just around the corner. It's important to note that the station has been earmarked for closure for many years, certainly since I've been on council 8 years ago. But nothing was in the works, and we were assured that just because it's earmarked doesn't mean it will close anytime in the near future, or in fact, as a matter of fact, if it'll close at all. Just last November, we met with our CPAC partners, and which includes the 4 municipalities and representatives from the OPP. This issue was brought forward, and we were told that there was no plans to close the Nouvellville site as the closure process had not started yet. Apparently, the process is a long one, and the municipality and stakeholders would be consulted prior to any submissions being made to the ministry. I was getting calls and emails telling me that the date has really been selected as of June 30th, and our officers were being asked to choose which station they would like to report to, either Sudbury or Cache Bay. I take the rumor mill usually with a grain of salt, but this time I felt there had to be a little bit of a ring of truth in it. Even our MPPs were already told about the closures. However, I, as your mayor, I was not contacted by anyone from the OPP that the process was on its way. I reached out to Acting Inspector Bill McMullen and found out that the process had begun and that the ministry note recommending closure was not yet complete. After some back and forth emails, I'm advised by Acting Inspector McMullen that the satellite office in Noelville is not closing on June 30th, and that the property owner had not been given any notice of the OPP's intention of vacating the premises at this time. I also asked him for a copy of the ministry note so that we could properly make an objection to the closure, to any closures. The inspector did agree to await for our response prior to submitting the ministry note. The ministry note is a recommendation that is going to the ministry, of course, and that recommendation will be supporting the closure of the satellite site. What the government does when it receives both the note and our response is unknown to me at this time. Therefore, before this process gets too far and becomes a fait accompli, I strongly believe that we as a council must begin mounting a strong campaign to stop any closure or redeployment of our officers. Our police officers play an integral part in our community, and having a satellite office in Noelville is crucial to the health and safety of every member of our community. There are many ways of keeping our detachment open, and a little creative thinking will get us there, I firmly believe. I want to inform council and members of the public who are watching what is already in place, and I welcome your feedback. Since our OPP detachment services for municipality and offers services to Dokis First Nation, a meeting of the mayors of Killarney, St. Charles, Marks Day, as well as an invitation has been sent out to Chief Duquette, will take place on Tuesday. As well, I've been in touch with both our MPPs, Frangilina and John Van Doff. They are very supportive of our actions and are waiting in the wings to see how they can assist us in stopping this closure. A group of citizens are starting a petition, and I am sure every member of this municipality will be more than happy to sign it. A request for delegation with the Solicitor General at the OGRE conference will be sought, and hopefully we will be granted some time with him and his staff. In the meantime, I'll be sending a letter to the Solicitor General outlining our concerns and requesting his ministry accelerate the process of changing the Sudbury East current CPAC body to a full body board under Section 10. This gives the municipalities much more say on how policing is done in our communities. Finally, we do plan to make people aware through various media outlets, and once the petition is ready, we will inform our constituents through various community groups, words of mouth, etc. So tonight, I would like to hear from you as councillors and certainly seek support so that we can put a stop to the closure of the satellite office and to see whether or not there are different ways to make sure that the OPP station stays here, whether or not it's at that station or in a another type of way. But certainly it's important that we keep a visible presence in our community. The other thing too is, though, you know, the OPP have told us that there will always be a presence in French River and Killarney, St. Charles, Marks Day, Warren, that the officers would be using their cars as offices. And I can't imagine being 12 hours in a car doing their job. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. And if you're stationed out of Sudbury or you're stationed out of Cache Bay, the illusion or the seduction of keeping them closer to West Nipissing and keeping them closer to Sudbury is, to me, a little bit too strong when there's shortages of officers all over the province. So it's important that we keep our officers here. We've worked hard to get a complement of officers here. I remember when I first started on council, we only had 5 or 6, and now I believe we're up to 10 officers in our area. And I certainly do not want any of them to report to either the Sudbury or the Cache Bay stations.
Okay, Councillor Dave.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. First off, I just want to say I was following the emails as they were being to. So I want to thank you for your hard work getting those answers, because it wasn't just a couple emails. There was a lot of back and forth there to get the answers. So thank you for that, Madam Mayor. And I have a question about if they do move away, do they have a certain amount of time that they have to spend in certain areas, regardless whether there's calls or not?
That's a good question. And I really don't know the answer. My first thing is probably, but is that a minimum or is that a proper, like, is it a minimum standard? And I really don't know. Those are good questions that eventually we'll be inviting the inspector and his superiors over for probably a chit chat.
Right, yeah, I don't want to see it close, but if it does happen, I'd like to see a good fair amount of time minimum that they have to spend here patrolling and just having a presence.
But there's no guarantee of that. The only way that you can ensure that that doesn't happen is by having a satellite. A look at the other there are 2 Marks de Warren closed, which went to Cache Bay, but there was another one, I forget the name, Still River. And Still River. And once that closed.
I seen comments.
And to be quite honest, if they're working out of Sudbury or Cache Bay and a domestic violence occurrence occurs, I'd rather have them around here where it takes maybe 5-10 minutes than 45 minutes to an hour to respond to, because by that time it's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late. And I'll give you a good example. I mean, we've been hit by tragedies in the last couple of weeks. And our OPP officers were on site of the fire, which 2 of our residents succumbed to within minutes. Then the other fire on Moonlight, again, once the call came through 911, the police officer were on site again with minutes. Not only were they on site within minutes, but they caught the culprit right then and there. But for the fact that they're here, that would not have happened. So tell me, is a watered down version of police presence acceptable? I say no. I say no. I say we stand firm on our belief that our residents are worthy of having a satellite office here to serve them. We are rural, we have different needs, and believe you me, there is no way that a watered down version of policing is going to do it for us. And so personally, I'm not prepared to accept any watered down version.
I agree, and I'm willing to support you on that.
Anybody else have comments? Councillor Dean?
I think it would be kind of interesting to know for the amount of money that we're charged by the OPP on our household charge basis, what was the intended kind of manpower that was going to be provided by the OPP on what kind of a basis? I mean, when I say that, are we talking about a 24-hour-a-day coverage of some sort with the OPP, or are they only looking at half of the day or so many hours out of the day? Or does it, do our fees that we pay relate to anything like that at all? Do we have any idea of what we should be expecting in terms of OPP coverage? I think that the mayor is right, that it is you feel more comfortable knowing that 24 hours a day there is one or two at least police officers in the area that's close, relatively close by. I mean, it could be still 20 minutes from any point in the municipality, I suppose. But that's better than being in Cache Bay and then having a call. There's no doubt about that. But I think that it's time that we had a better understanding of what we should be expecting. What are we supposed to be getting for the money we're paying for policing?
Well, I expect 24/7 policing. Now the form, well, they tell us that at our CPAC meeting right now that we do have 24/7 policing here in our CPAC or our for Sudbury East. Whether or not that's going to change, if there's a change, how can it not change is my question. The fees are provincially mandated. And so even if, let's say that they close the satellite, our taxpayers are going to think they're going to get a little break on their OPP level. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So they'll have a reduction of service, but they're not going to get a reduction in their fees because those are provincially mandated based on a formula of some kind that sets our calls per service fees and our general fees. So that's not going to change. So the illusion of a few people who say, well, I guess like police is like insurance, unless you need it, you don't really pay too much attention to it. But other taxpayers are looking, well, for maybe not a bad thing. Maybe I can save myself, $300, $400, $500 a year on my taxes if we don't have it. Nothing's ever happened to me. Well, that's not how the social world works, right? And it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
I just have a comment. Thank you, like Dave said, for writing those emails and getting the information for us. I think it's important for us to keep our satellite station open. For one, I don't think being 45 minutes away or being Cache Bay may not be far, but when you're, have emergencies like we've had in the last few weeks, and we know how many accidents there are on, just outside here, the French River on Highway 69, where many a times our police officers have had to respond. If we're waiting for, Sudbury OPP or Cache Bay to respond, the time will be, it's just not doable. And I think in the summertime where, also you have to take in consideration where we have 4 times the population that we do in the wintertime. Yeah, things might be smooth enough, just on a normal base, but in the summertime where we're quadrupling the amount of people in the area, we need those OPPs nearby. People already complain that we don't have enough services from them, that we don't see them. If they're out, in St. Charles, well, they can't be in Albin at the same time, right? We already have that issue of not enough patrolling going on. The speed limit is the big issue. So I think it's important for them to stay open. Also, for those police officers, 12 hours a day in a vehicle is a long amount of time. And if they have no place to go to the washroom or to eat their meal, I don't think eating in their vehicle is the best place for them, or writing their notes. So those are also humanitarian, that's things that, they will have to take into consideration. I am assuming if they come out of Cache Bay, they won't be able to come out for more than, 3 hours at a time. So you come back and you go back, more use of gas and road and harder on the vehicles than just being right here in town. So I think we should, really speak loudly about keeping that service here, not just for us in French River, but I know it benefits also St. Charles and Marks and Warren and Killarney and even all the way up to Britt, because I mean, what's next is Perry Sound. So they already have a wide area to cover out here. So I think it's important that we keep them. So that's my 2 cents on that. I don't know if somebody else has something to say. Councillor Roger?
Losing our police force, I believe, is totally unacceptable, especially in the area we live in. You know, we're, like I said, between 45 minutes to an hour away from Cache Bay or Sudbury. And again, you know, we're a growing community. Right now, the way it sits, we're a growing community, and we can't afford to lose, because once we lose it, it's a lot harder to get back. As our numbers grow, I mean, we're going to have major problems. I think we're going to have major problems in the summer. If people know that they're not being checked upon and they don't see radars anywhere, like we had problems last summer with speeders. So just imagine if they don't see the police force around, or they know they're not around. So it would be in a case sort of a suicide for our area not to have police force. And going back to what you mentioned, Madam Mayor, with our ratepayers thinking that they would save money on that, they might, but their insurance rates would go up. If the area is not policed, the insurance is going to pick up because they're not covered. So basically, I'll just mention it again. We can't lose our police force. We have to do everything possible to keep it. Thank you.
Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I presume that the rationale for this proposed shutting down of the site is money. That they're looking at a cost savings, I'm sure that's what they're looking at. And it seemed, and I can understand, I don't know what they're paying for that place. That's a big place and a big building or a big property. And I'm sure that the rent is pretty high. Maybe the answer is something a lot more contained or more suitable to put 1 or 2 police officers in when they want to have a rest, and there's a washroom and a lunchroom, something like that, than to have that large facility. And maybe what we need to do is to offer something smaller, maybe at the end of our building here, which was an original plan, was to do that and have a road going straight out to the highway and contain them right here in the municipal building. But I mean, I think I know the mayor's been having all these discussions, and I do commend her on that and keeping this in front. But I think we really need to know what it is that they're trying to achieve by closing that, and what we might do as an alternative to help them and help us. I mean, it may be a two-way street here. But to me, we're talking a little in the blind. I don't know why they want to close. But I figure it's got to be money.
Has to be money. Has to be money.
Yeah.
And how much savings? I don't know, because they haven't given us the figures. I haven't seen the note that they're sending to the ministry. I have asked to see it, though I thought that I had an acknowledgement saying that I was going to get it, but when I reread my emails a little bit, it's not there. So I'll follow up with the inspector tomorrow to find out when I'm going to get a copy of the note, because that will outline the reasons why they want to close it. Councillor Dean, we're on the same page. We have some ideas that, we'll need to talk about in council, and as we're making plans for the future about where we take the municipality. And honestly, if we can work out a deal with the OPP, I would be more supportive to keep them here. If that's all they need, we can work something out, then let's do it. But at the moment, I have no idea, aside from the fact that I'm assuming it's money. And until I see the ministry note, I don't have an answer for you.
Maybe we're having some of this discussion.
No, I don't think it's premature because the thing is, if we wait too long, then it becomes, with government especially, it becomes too late. And 6 months ago or 7 months ago, maybe it was a little longer, eh, Mark? Somebody did come to me to say it's closing. I'm going, no, 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 no. And at that time, it was the other inspector was Mike Mayville. And I whipped up an email to him very quickly to say, what is this? And he says, no, there's no truth to any of this. No, 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 it's not closing. You know, not even there. It is earmarked, but it's been earmarked for 7 years, but nothing, you know, there's nothing, no recommendations going forward or anything like that. That was maybe 6 months prior to this. So now it's happening. And I know for a fact that the note is being written. I know that it was being presented today to their superiors, or it was being discussed today. And that the assurance that I received was that they would not submit the note until we submitted our letters of, you know, our concerns.
Objecting.
Yeah, objecting to the closures. But I would like to see the note to see on what basis that they want to close the OPP station so that we can respond appropriately. So I don't think it's too early. I think we're maybe a little blind because we don't know the logic that's going behind the closures. I think that's a better way of looking at it, Councillor. Oh, I know it's money. So certainly we're open to thinking outside the box and seeing how we can accommodate.
Councillor Dave?
I think what his response was about the noted, it wasn't exactly complete and it wasn't sent in yet. And just before it's sent in, he will send it to you. I think that's what I understood, something along those lines.
Yeah, that's how I read it at first, but I reread it again and it's not really, and I can be wrong.
Or
I think I
after
was
it's
wrong in
submitted.
1972.
I don't remember that.
You remember that?
No.
Probably weren't born.
No.
But I have to look at it and I will send again another email specifically asking that one question. Can we have the note once it's completed so that we can prepare a response that will go along with the note so that it's an appropriate response.
Right. And I was having the same idea as Dean, except I wasn't going to mention it until we were more into like negotiation.
If we can come up with any methodology that would save money for the OPP, that we might have something to help them make a final decision.
Yes.
But I don't know what they pay rent over there, and except that it's obvious it's a big building.
Yeah.
And they don't need all that building. I'm sure of that, just as a place to rest their people when they're down in the area. Or to contain somebody if they had to for an hour or two till they get some help or whatever the case might be. But to have that big facility, but maybe they're also getting a bargain price on it. I don't know. We don't know.
Mhm.
So as we said, we're blind,
Yeah,
but we're not premature.
no.
Okay.
Oh, no, I don't think it's premature. I think that they should know right from. They should know right from the beginning, just as you're doing, that we'd be very upset if we didn't have them down here on a regular basis. That's the key. 24 hours a day, there should be somebody available here, so.
Okay,
Remember when we didn't have anybody. Or can I go back a long way?
so I think we're all on the same page here. We all agree to the same, and Mayor Peugeot will keep us posted and keep fighting. And the more, when we find out more, we'll discuss it. Okay, we'll keep going on. 6.2 finances, 6.2.1, we have a resolution to award the purchase of an asset management program. So I need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Dave and Counselor Willie. And I believe Mark Fleury will speak to this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for award of an asset management program. It's the RFP was sent back in November. We received 2 submissions. One from PSD Citywide Inc. and one from Universe. The request for proposals were evaluated based on technical scores and also on pricing. Technical scores, PSD Citywide attained 98.1 out of 100 and Universe 88.8. And also for pricing, PSD Citywide was total pricing for the 5-year duration was 67,282 compared to 124,000 for Universe. So PSD Citywide is recommended for award. In the 2022 operating budget, we had a budget of 35,000 for this asset management program, and it was financed by the modernization funds that we already have in the books. And the pricing for the year 1 is 33,300 for a purchase, training, implementation, and for 33,300, which is lower than the price, and it's going to be an annual price of about $6,000 for the maintenance.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mark? Counselor Dean?
I'm not going to question it. I just couldn't help but look at the difference in the annual costs over 5 years. And I just wonder why and the difference. What makes that huge difference?
It might be economies of scale.
Yeah.
Universe is coming in the market, and PSD Citywide is in the market. A lot of municipalities are using PSD Citywide, so I think it's.
Okay, Mel, do you have a resolution?
Yes. Duly moved and seconded, we resolve that council awards the purchase of the asset management software to PSD Citywide Inc. for the amount of 33,300 plus applicable taxes.
All in favor? Okay, we'll continue on to 6.2.2, a resolution to adopt a bylaw to authorize a contribution agreement with FedNor for inclusive community cultural murals. Bylaw 2023-07 contribution agreement, FedNor. I will let Mark Gagnon speak to this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the title of the agreement says, FedNor contributed an amount of $36,000 towards the mural program, which began last summer. We currently have murals installed at the Albin Community Center. We have one installed at the waterfront beach. We have one installed on the Public Works Garage. You'll also notice one that was installed on the building at the corner of 64-535. And there's one installed at the Joe Chartrand Park as well. We've just received confirmation. We had submitted an application to FedNor back in the spring and received confirmation a couple of weeks ago that the funding did come through. So this is the agreement finalizing that.
I believe I need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Willie and Counselor Roger.
Duly moved and seconded, be it resolved that bylaw 2023-07, being a bylaw to authorize a contribution agreement with FedNor, be read first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All in favor? Okay. Yep. So 6.3, Public Works and Environmental Services, 6.3.1, a resolution to award the purchase of a GPS fleet management system. And I believe Mark Gagnon will speak to this, or?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, as the report indicates, we received notification from our supplier True Fleet back in the fall that our GPS system will no longer be supported, will not have any replacement parts available, and no new parts available. As we all become reliant on the information that this provides us for tracking the vehicles and providing information on the services we provide through grading and snow removal. It's a valuable tool. Also, the provincial government adopted legislation in terms of electronic driver duty and hours of service. The staff was requested, and I apologize that the people that worked on this file directly are not available this evening, so I'm filling in. Just so you know, I don't have 100% of the details, but I have a good understanding of it. So based on that information, we went out to request for proposals, and you'll see there was 3 submissions received, 2 of which did not meet our requirements. One because of the new legislation requirements we required, and the other had to do with dash cams, which we are also installing on some of our vehicles for emergencies and the plows and patrol trucks. So you'll see the price is over a 3-year period, Samsara being the recommended supplier for an amount of $44,588. That's over a 3-year period. And we're recommended that we use the funds within our modernization fund to have this incorporated and installed on our fleet in the upcoming months.
Okay, we need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Dave and Councillor Dean.
It is duly moved and seconded, but resolved that council awards the contract for the Samsara GPS AVL fleet management software through the modernization funds for the amount of $44,588.16 plus applicable taxes.
All in favor? Okay, 6.4 Recreation and Community Services nil, 6.5 Emergency and Protection Services nil, 6.6 Andrea already presented. And we'll continue on with 6.6.2, a resolution to adopt a parkland dedication bylaw. And I believe that Mal, our clerk, will give us the report on that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So this report, I had presented a report at the October 19th meeting. We had presented the parkland dedication bylaw in draft form for council's information. We received a few questions at that meeting, so it was in our best interest to let council review the bylaw until we bring it to council for final adoption. So this report this evening is just a revised report to provide further information to council and to entertain any questions or concerns. So the last report, which is attached to this agenda also, is it provided information on the Planning Act and the purpose of the policy, which I'll take the opportunity to summarize again. So the Planning Act allows municipalities as part of the municipal approval process for land development or redevelopment to require developers and applicants to contribute land for parks and or provide cash in lieu of parkland, which helps to fund the parks and recreational activities and services in our community. So as we can surely agree, the growth of parks, culture, and recreational services is vital in our municipality. And that is why that we find that it's important to maintain the policy to provide a balance between encouraging development without undue hardship, but also by obtaining cash in lieu dedications to help grow the fund. For example, through the years, probably in the last 10 years, we've made a lot of improvements to Joe Park, to the Albin Beach, to the splash pad, to public boat launches, and the list goes on. So these were funds used through the Parkland Fund. The recommended bylaw provides for a policy to acquire cash in lieu for each lot being created through plans of subdivision or through consent. So severance of land in a more simplified process. So if you've gone through the policy that we have presently, it's very difficult for staff and for the applicants to understand and to apply. So for example, so the policy that's being recommended recommends a flat rate of cash in lieu per lot being created. So we are recommending a flat rate of $1,500 per lot created. So like I said, the existing policy is very challenging to apply. It's different guidelines and options are subject to, so it all depends on the lot size, the location, the presumed value by the applicant, which then determines how the property is being appraised in order to determine the value to be multiplied by the 5%. So how this policy is applied. So when the planning board receives an application for consent, it is circulated to staff for comment. This gives me the opportunity to go through the application to see if there's any potential conditions that the municipality needs to impose. So in relation to municipal drains, any road transfers or parkland. So for example, for parkland, then the applicant is asked to consult with me to determine how the policy is to be applied. So for example, if the lot is less than 10 acres, if it's beyond that, or if it's a waterfront, or if the value is easily determined, then we decide if the minimum amount of $1,000 is applied, or if the applicant needs to hire an appraiser to get his property value to be able to multiply the 5% value. So most policies around that I've referenced, either municipalities are going to require a flat rate. It just simplifies the process, or the lot being severed off is appraised at 5%. There's no guidelines on the size, if it's a waterfront or any other circumstances that's listed in the policy. So it's either you hire an appraiser right away and you get it appraised and the value is calculated, or it's a flat rate. So like I mentioned, so the flat rate that we're suggesting is $1,500. Right now, the minimum is $1,000 for the parkland dedication. I think 1,500 is, we've done a study internally to see if it was appropriate. I think it's appropriate compared to other municipalities and to what we are averagely receiving or having the applicants contributing at this time. That's about all the information that I can provide further to the report that I had presented. If there's any questions or.
Councillor Dave?
I think that just simplifies things for everybody.
Very much.
And yeah, I think the 1,500 is fair and it puts everybody on a level playing field. That sounds good to me.
Agree. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? Seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder. So Councillor Dean and Councillor Roger.
It is duly moved and seconded, but resolved that bylaw 2023-09, being a bylaw to prescribe parkland dedication and or cash in lieu of parkland dedication within the municipality of French River, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All in favor? Okay, we'll continue on to correspondence. 7.1, there was a request for financial donation to complete a fully accessible trail between the two existing paths within the forest area of the VA Family Walking Trail. I believe this will be discussed at our Mayor Pajot will speak to it.
Okay, so just to bring everybody up to date, the VA Family Walking Trail Committee is embarking in a $35,000 fundraiser to make the walking trail fully accessible. Right now, there's a small portion of the trail that is not fully accessible, and those in wheelchairs are either not making it up the little hill or they're having trouble anyway. Considering we're looking at setting up some 32 apartment style seniors home back here, the walking trail, I think, is going to become a vital part of for the senior, especially the seniors. We all know how much it's being used as it is now. I think it's a great asset to our municipality. And I don't care if we talk about it tonight. All I want to do is fill out that council will be donating, as we should be setting a good example in their fundraising to give them a little boost, so that they can go out to the businesses, and hopefully I know that they're planning to approach L'Alliance, they're planning to approach all the businesses in French Rivers to get to their $35,000 goal. They're also setting up a draw, which they'll start selling tickets very shortly. So they're hoping to raise about 3,000 to 4,000 on the draw. And that draw will take place, I think, at the seniors appreciation June luncheon. And so I know we have a meeting on February 8th, but I want to make sure that it's included in the budget. I'm looking anywhere between 1,500 and 1,000. They're not asking for that much out. Perhaps we should be looking at more. But if council, if there's some consensus here, I can bring it up after budget has passed. Any objections?
No.
Didn't think so.
Okay, so we'll discuss it at budget.
We'll discuss.
Thanks, Mayor. So,
Yeah, well, we're meeting on next Wednesday at 2:00 for budget discussions. So I intend to speak on it at that time. Yeah. How's that?
I'm gonna be on.
Okay.
So, section 8, the consent agenda, I need a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda. So Counselor Dave and Counselor Willie.
Duly moved and seconded, be resolved that council approves the items of the consent agenda under section 8.1 and receives the items under section 8.2.
All in favor? Okay, we have no notices of motion. Announcement inquiries. Before we go into our closed session, does anybody have anything? Counselor Dave, want to start?
Last week I went to the Roma conference. It was very educational, especially on the part with the short-term rentals, which that's the one that I like the most because we're in discussion of that right now. So I got a lot of good information, which I will communicate with Andrea as soon as we can both have time to sit down and talk. Everything else was pretty good. Had a good time at the same time and looking forward to the next one.
Hey, Counselor Dean, you gotta put your mic on.
And so Dave, just give us a couple of hints of what you learned about this. Is there other communities are obviously as kind of apprehensive as we are about them?
Well, there's already communities that already started, they've already implemented the bylaws. One of the biggest issues at first that some of the communities went through was they did it through zoning. And what happens when you go through zoning, people go under legal non-conforming, and then you can't take that away from them. So we can't really do it through zoning, we got to do it through bylaw. That's the biggest, that's the biggest lesson I learned there, but there's a lot of little other details that I have notes.
But the bylaws could be sort of all encompassing as to what we expect or want, or what our aims are.
Yeah.
With a.
And it's easy to model too from other communities, see what worked and what didn't work, and you got to make sure your permit fee is enough to cover all this, because you don't want your taxpayers paying for short-term accommodations.
Well, that's a good start. Yeah, thank you.
Here, Peugeot.
I don't, it's been busy. Mostly OPP stuff. We're trying to get a SEMA meeting going, so I'm hoping within the next couple weeks, SEMA will get together because we do have a number of issues aside from the OPP to deal with. But the other municipalities are still getting familiar with their new mayors, their new council. So, but we need to get going on that. Aside from that, I don't think I have anything else.
Okay.
I'll probably remember after we go in the other room.
Okay, sounds good. Mark?
I also was at Roma with Counselor Dave and had a great day on Monday, attending an aqua session, and then following the aqua session, meeting with one of the engineering and individuals to discuss first of all, our sewer system and in particular our lagoons. We had some good fruitful discussions, and hopefully in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we should have potentially some information for the environmental committee, which will be appointed this evening, and council, and potential funding opportunities on how to address our lagoons.
Good news. Counselor Willie?
I have nothing to add.
Counselor Roger? Okay. Oh, Dave forgot to mention something.
One other thing about the Roma conference, it was nice too, especially in an election year. I got to the pleasure to meet first of all, the mayor of West Nipissing, the new mayor of West Nipissing, a couple of councillors from St. Charles, Marks Day Warren. So it's just nice to make some relations with neighboring municipalities.
Okay, happening this weekend, the Rapids are playing Saturday and Sunday. Wanted to give a big shout out to all the volunteers that helped out at the spaghetti supper out in St. Charles last weekend for the family that lost a son, and seeing the other one recuperate. So thank you to everybody who went out there and helped out. That was much appreciated in this time. And that's about it, I guess. Keep shoveling away. And so I believe now we're gonna go into closed session, and we will be back afterwards. But for those that are gonna sign off, thanks for listening to us, and we'll be back.
We have a motion.
We have a motion.
Yep.
So I need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Willie and Counselor Dean.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that the meeting be closed as authorized in the municipal act pursuant to section 239(2)B. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, with respect to the selection of public members to be appointed to the advisory committees.
All in favor? Okay, we'll be back. Okay, welcome back. We need a resolution to resolve into an open session. So Counselor Dave and Counselor Dean. Okay, we're good. 12.4, we have a resolution to award the members to the following committees. But we will, the Public Works Advisory Committee, we are going to amend the terms of reference. So we will wait till our next meeting to appoint those members.
No, we're going to appoint them tonight.
Oh, we will appoint them tonight
We will.
and then with the terms of reference at our next meeting. So I will let Melanie go through the list of committees and the members that have been appointed. So I need a mover and a seconder. A mover and a seconder, Counselor Roger and Counselor Willie.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that council appoints the following four members of the public to the Environmental Advisory Committee for the term of 2022-2026. Brad Leonard, Joan Mercer, Caitlin Nobbs, and Tim Doherty.
All in favor?
And for the Public Works Committee?
Yeah.
Mover and seconder.
A mover and a seconder. Counselor Dave. Counselor Willie.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that council appoints the following we're going to appoint 4 members. We're going to amend the terms of reference at the next meeting. So we are appointing 4 members of the public to the Public Works Advisory Committee for the term of 2022-2026. David Neuenhouse, Rock Tuma, Gary Chaffran, and Alain Pilon.
All in favor? We are good. So for the Recreation and Community Advisory Committee, I need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Dave and Counselor Dean.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that council appoints the following 4 members of the public to the Recreation and Community Advisory Committee for the term of 2022-2026. Justin Seguin, Minnie Fisher, Debbie Chartrand, and Kim Sunley.
All in favor? For the Property Standards and Bylaw,
Economic Development.
Economic Development Advisory Committee, I need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Willie and Counselor Roger.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that council appoints the following 4 members of the public to the Economic Development Advisory Committee for the term of 2022-2026. Natalie Price Day, Caitlin Nobbs, Manny Figueroa, Amy Shopman.
All in favor? Okay, Property Standards and Bylaw Appeal Committee. I need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Dave and Counselor Roger.
Duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that council appoints the following 3 members of the public to the Property Standards and Bylaw Appeal Committee for the term of 2022-2026. Justin Seguin, Natalie Price Day, and Manny Figueroa.
All in favor? Okay. So we need a resolution to adopt the confirmation bylaw. Counselor Dave and Counselor Dean.
Duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that bylaw 2023-10, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council at the meeting held on February 1st, be read 1st, 2nd, and 3rd time and finally passed.
All in favor? And I need a resolution to adjourn. Counselor Dean and Counselor Willie.